think you can feel good about that, the continued monitoring.
Next question. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, sir, other panel members, other experts in the room. Thank you for being here. Thank you also to Captain Gunther for being here as representative for the Navy. Sir, I watch and comment on your daily town halls, and I'm happy that you are here so that I no longer feel ignored. Sir, my name is Amanda Feint. I'm an active duty Army officer. I'm currently stationed at Camp Smith, but tonight I'm here as a very concerned parent. My family story was featured in a Task and Purpose article released this morning, of which I'm hoping you've at least had a chance to read by now. I'd first like to say thank you, sir, for your transparency, everything that you've done for our Army families. If it weren't for you and your team's diligent effort in notifying our families, in fact, going door to door with notice, then my family, among many other families, would probably be sicker than we already have been. As the article stated, I'm a resident of Ford Island, and my children receive care daily at Ford Island CDC. We were notified that our children were receiving clean water since 29 November. However, that was actually not true, sir. In fact, it wasn't until 9 December when I came here to Task Force Ohana's headquarters and approached General Flynn's XO about the issue. Task Force Ohana made the calls to get the Ford Island CDC water back on 10 December, get the Ford Island clean water on 10 December. And for that, I want to thank you and Task Force Ohana. Ever since, though, sir, I have been fighting like hell with Navy officials to get this info out to Ford Island CDC parents, and also to replace all porous materials in every single one of our CDCs, including sippy cups for our toddlers, linens that they sleep on every day on top of their cots, porous cooking utensils and serving items that they use to prepare our children's meals, teething toys that will inevitably end up in our children's mouth, especially mine. All of these items and more were likely washed at one point with contaminated water. I'm fighting for this so no other parent finds himself in an ER with a sick child and a doctor telling them, hey mom, you may actually be poisoning your child still because that sippy cup that your daughter has in her hand, though filled with clean water or fresh milk, it may hold on to contamination that was previously washed with contaminated water. I don't know about you, sir, or anyone else in this room, but would you drink clean water out of a previously used red plastic gas can? I'm also fighting because I sat in a claims brief just across the way here, where we were told to discontinue use of and claim all of our porous materials. In fact, we handed out a flyer about that tonight. Things like Pampered Chef pizza stones and spatulas and all of our baby items. So why aren't we doing the same for all of our CDCs? Why doesn't the same guidance apply for them, for our children? My husband and I met with Captain Jeffrey Miller, Chief of Staff for Pacific Fleet, on 16 December for 5 hours, sir. We shared all of this and more with him and his team. He told me it would be too easy. It would be too easy to replace this, and we should do this for our children. And you know what? We left there feeling really good. We did. For the first time, we could breathe easy. Days following, I was notified by my chain of command. Didn't even get the courtesy to call me, who sat in there for 5 hours. I got a call from my chain of command saying, we were notified that the Navy would be replacing the porous items, but not until after the flushing operations were complete. Can someone, anyone in this room, tell me what sort of sense that makes when our CDCs aren't even using the water that's being flushed? Bottom line, and as I understand it to be, clean water in a potentially contaminated cup, for example, does not actually equal clean or safe water for our children. I've come to this conclusion for a few reasons. Recently, the Armed Forces Housing Advocates consulted with Purdue University and published an article specifically relating to the discontinued use of plastics, in particular for our babies and our children. Also, if you were to look on DOH's website today, under frequently asked questions specifically relating to small children and infants, you would find the response something along the lines of, because of our children's size and developing organs and systems, children are at higher risk for health effects from environmental toxins, DOH recommends extra care to be taken for our children. Sir, I recognize that there is very little research out there, as ingesting jet fuel is not widely studied. But if we know that porous materials have the ability to retain even a little bit of contamination, then please help me. Please help our CDC families. My children love their CDC. They miss their teachers, they miss their friends, they miss their routine. And to your point, Sergeant Major, please help them get back in the CDC so I can put my uniform back on and I can go to work. Because right now I'm a stay-at-home mom. Please help me, sir, and please help our CDC families. And please help the godforsaken Navy replace the items in all of our CDCs. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Amanda, yeah, great question. And I read the article this morning. Jamie, my PAO, passed it to me. So first off, I want to apologize for what you've been through, right? It sounds like there were a lot of well-intentioned people, but it sounds like there was some bureaucracy involved there that you shouldn't have gotten caught up in. You did get caught up in, but at this point in the game, the fact that you've been able to highlight it to task and purpose, it's out there now. We're aware of it. That's a good thing. This is a good thing. It's a good place where we're at. So I appreciate your courage in highlighting that to task and purpose to Haley Britsky there, so that we could bring this to light. Okay, so that's the number one thing. Your issue is spot on. What you raise, I think, are a couple of things that we have talked about and we want to talk about tonight. So if you don't mind, I'm going to take a little bit of liberty. So the first is CDCs, and Dan is our garrison commander, and he's oversight of our CDCs, and we've been, I told my team today, I'm like, hey, because I was in Japan when this whole thing started, came back, within 24 hours, and when I came here, the first thing I saw was we had water down at the CDC right down the hill here, and so we did get on top of that here, and Dan can talk about that here, what we're doing in our CDCs that the Army runs, okay? So we'll do that first. Second, you talked about the science behind the plastics, okay? And I'm gonna let Allie talk about that after Dan's done, to just tell you about what the guidance we're giving you is. But then the third piece of this is Gio Rojas, my attorney with the claims process, okay? So and that doesn't cover the CDC piece. I mean, the CDC piece is what it is. I agree with you. But for individual homes with plastics that they're not comfortable with, I'll let Gio give a quick update on where we're at with claims so everybody has some common understanding, okay? So first, over to Dan on CDC.
Hey, sir, I'll be quick because I think Allie's got really the talk about the science. But what I'll say about the CDC is we had water as early as possible there. We use the clean water to wash, and then everything in the CDC is cleaned daily, and that's standard procedure. That is a lot of it too is when we talk about toys, wiping down because of COVID. And then early on, I will tell you very candidly, as the garrison commander, I went to my two bosses and I said, hey, I think I may need to shut down the CDC. And then we went to our safety team, we went to Army Public Health, had our higher headquarters on the installation management side, and walked through to make sure that, hey, what we were doing is still safe and made sense to continue to operate. But we clean those items every day. We clean them based on the science, and I'll pass it over to Allie for that.
Yeah, actually, let me jump in. Go ahead. Because really what we're talking about are what I refer to as personal use plastic items. So whatever those things that kids put in their mouths and all that sort of thing. So I agree. This is an important topic, and thanks for bringing this to light to help everyone know. We've been working on this for a while, trying to, and it's not just the CDC, right? Every family, we have a family here in front, you have plastic items that you use for your children. And that's true all across all of the affected areas. So it's important that we talk about it. We've done a bunch of reviews. There's science that is part of all of this, but the bottom line is there are too many variables that we don't know. We don't know the exact concentration of the contamination at all the different locations at any given time. Part of the science goes for the amount of time that there was exposed to, kind of, we're talking about the PVC pipe, the longer it's in contact with the contaminant, the more of the petroleum would migrate into the plastic. Those variables are so many that we can't give you a universal, this is the answer kind of thing. I just want to make sure everybody knows that up front. But what we are confident about with all of the subject matter experts, EPA, Army Public Health, Navy, Marine Corps Public Health, all of these safety people coming together, we are confident that in general, hot or warm, soapy, clean water, you can wash those things and they're going to be fine. Now, what I would tell everybody is kind of what we said before. If it smells bad, don't use it. Well, after washing, if those plastic items have an aroma of petroleum, you put it in your mouth or drink some of it and it tastes like petroleum, or you see the sheen on it, then you ought not to use that particular item. Okay? So wash it with warm, soapy water. We're actually putting together a guide that's going to go through all that with more details of exactly what that would look like. But here's the bottom line. If for your children you have concerns, I would recommend that you not use it. So what you're saying about the CDC is exactly right. Those porous surfaces that can be cleaned probably reasonably should be and are. And then for those that are going in kids' mouths in particular, but I would say for anybody who's using those plastic items, wash them. And if you wash them, as I suspect almost all of you do, certainly we do in my house, then they're probably going to be fine. And certainly things like glassware and hard surfaces, non-porous surfaces, that is adequate for what we're talking about. The petroleum products don't penetrate there. So if you simply wash them, you'll be fine. So what I would say is watch it. If it smells, go ahead and try. If you really want the piece of item, wash it again. If it still smells, set it aside, and then we talk to the claims people about how to get that claim recognized. So we could let the claims guy talk first, and then we can. Is that okay? Ellie, did you want to add something?
Just going to add, actually, the first, as you were talking, I was listening, and thank you, General Place, for all of that. It's excellent. I'm a mother of 5 children, and obviously also a military officer, and I absolutely cannot imagine going through. I can't imagine being taken out of uniform, have to go home and take care of kids because of something like that. So I'm sorry that this has happened to your family. I can say that Colonel Mizigoy and I, of course, are both commanders, and there's an inherent responsibility that comes with that, and you have authorities. And the conversation we had was, at the end of the day, if you've done all those things for these personal use plastics, not everything you own, not your entire Tupperware set, but you have some things, some, you know, the little newbies that the kids use and things like that. And if you're concerned, exactly as he said, if it were me, I would put it together and put it on my claim. So that would be my approach from the scientific perspective, and then from the kind of parental sanity perspective, to know that you've done your best. As for the CDC, I can't touch that. It's unfortunate. I'm glad that you had the courage to highlight it.
Yeah.
Ma'am, so I'm going to address your specific question, but I'm going to do so kind of in context of an overall brief. The CGs